Uh, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. All right, it's Brother Abba Allah from WF Chicago.
Brother Tazama.
Today we're finna go over our Latinos and Native Israelites, a Issachar edition, man. All right, Issachar edition for to hop into it, going to bring out some breakdowns, going to the curses, going to different history, prove that our so-called Mexican brothers are Israelites, man. Right, history, archaeology, and prophecy, man. All right, and we're gonna kick it off with I'm getting scripture. All right, let's go to Revelation chapter 12 and verse 16. All right, Brian brought this out last week. It's Revelation chapter 12 and verse 16. And the earth, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of the sea. All right, so the earth helped the woman. Who's that woman? Israel. Right, the earth is about to help this woman, with the archaeology, with the damn excavations, the prophecy, the history, right, to bring out this knowledge to prove that our Northern Kingdom brothers, especially Issachar, they're Israelites, man. All right, you got a precept.
All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 5 and verse 15. It says,
No.
be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or a small, right? So you can't be ignorant in things greatly or in small things, right? You can't be ignorant on the end-up breakdowns. A lot of men, they tend to get all the breakdowns, Zechariah, Revelation, Daniel, but then they say, I'm not dealing with the history. That's kind of small, right? And you can't be ignorant in the small things, man.
Right.
You got to go into the history, right? The prophecies. You got to go into the maps. Maps are beautiful, right? Atlases, right? When you watch some of these old videos of the elders, right? They couldn't just automatically pull up the blue letter on the phone like how we do. No, those men, they had to go to the library. They had to go get books, right? They had to go get them atlases, Bible, they had to go use dictionaries, right? So we got it kind of smoothly or easy, right? We got to take advantage of the things we have. We have automatic internet access on a drop of a dime, right? So we got to go into the history, the archaeology, and most importantly, the Bible prophecy, right? To prove that the so-called Mexicans are, in fact, the Israelites from the tribe of Issachar, right? And they really go back to the ancient Aztecs when we dive into these accounts, right? So you have, we Lord willing, we could cover every tribe through the spirit, right? Go into the history, pull up the pictures, right? YouTube videos, and we trying to dive into this thing, right?
That's
What you
right.
got?
Con. Get another precept. Right. This is Sirach chapter 33 and 17. Consider that I labor not for myself only, but for all them that seek learning. Right? We're not doing this for ourselves. We're not doing this because we want to just be heard. Right? We're not doing this live stream because we're doing it because we're doing it for the nation of Israel, right? That they may be edified, right? To damn cut those doctrines, right? We do them for all those that seek learning. So if you want more information on this, guess what? You gotta come watch this thing, man. Are we laboring not for ourselves, but for the nation of Israel? All right, the nation of Israel.
Right. So first and most importantly, right, you got a lot of men saying the Mexicans, they're not Israelites at all. Right. I was working at my old so-called job, and you had this brother I was talking to. I was trying to bring him to the truth. I'm saying, we the Israelites, right? The so-called white man is the devil. And he told me, I said, the Mexicans and the Puerto Ricans, we are the same. And he said, no, it's a difference between Latinos and Hispanics. He said the Mexicans, they Caucasians. I said, brother, what? He said, yeah, they Caucasians. Right? Look at their hair. Right? Just because you have straight hair for the most part, and their hair is not even straight like the so-called white man. They got a different type texture hair. And you got Judites that literally have straight hair. I seen brothers, Negroes, right? Literally with straight hair. You would think they have the N-word here, like they say, or Kevin Durant hair. No, they got straight hair, right? So you can't make this up, right? We literally scattered and we literally been mingled in, right? But yeah, he said the Mexicans Caucasians, right? And there's no proof on that at all. Then my pops, he's like the Mexicans, he's like, we not the same. He's like, they dirty, right? They don't wash up. They don't I guess the Mexicans at his job, the so-called Mexicans at his job, they don't flush the toilet when they use the bathroom. So he said they dirty. Brother, you got Benjamites that do that, right? You got West Indies
Like,
that do that.
hey, so I seen a damn video. I seen a video of a Judite. This is New York. Right, brother was damn mopping the floor, and the brother kind of while he mopping the floor, you got the mop bucket in the back. The brother, the brother just kind of pulled down his pants and did his thing in the mop bucket, man, in front of everybody. Right, and then he tried to kind of knock him away at the knock, but he kind of broke the stick and kind of threw the stick and kind of continued to do his business. And that brother had woolly hair, right? So that's all right. That's bad.
Right. So it don't matter. You got nasty people all over from different tribes, brother. You gotta have some type of better proof than that if you're gonna say they Caucasians, right? But the so-called Mexicans, they fit the curses, and that's what we go into through the spirit. So you wanted to pull the scriptures up on a computer, or?
That's what I'm about to do.
Come on. Right, let's go to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. And verse Deuteronomy 28, right? And verse number 49.
Hold up.
Right, Deuteronomy 28. God. Deuteronomy 28, right in verse 49.
I'll get that real quick.
Right. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 49. It says, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, right? From the end of the earth. Right now, in this context, is this going into literally the siege of Jerusalem, right? In 70 AD. From 66 to 70 AD, you had the Roman Jewish wars, right? In 70 AD, our temple literally got destroyed by the Romans. They came in. This applies to that as well, right? But it's double to that, which is the so-called Mexicans, they actually fit this curse, and we're going to prove it. It says, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far. What is that nation? The conquistadors, the Spanish conquistadors, right? Or the conquistadors. That is that nation that's from far on another foe, right? Because literally, you want to put up Spain on the map? Or you could just pull up a world map.
Like, a world map.
Right, because Spain, if you look at the map, Spain is over there, by Europe. Right there on the left end of it. And you have so-called Mexico, right, where the Aztecs were, is literally you could go to
damn, it's a big
it's kind of all the way over there.
Yeah.
See
Imagine
that?
that. Yeah.
So that's that nation from far that it's talking about, right? The conquistador Spaniards. And I want to read this again because we're gonna go into it, right? You could go to the you had something called the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs, right? Because the so-called Mexicans, they go back to the ancient Aztecs. And you had different other tribes as well. But you had something called the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs, right, in 1519. That's that nation that's from far. And you might hear one of the main victims or characters or leaders in that war, which is Hernán Cortez, right? So you could go to the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs, right? It says the conquest of the Aztec Empire, right? Salaki, I'll be right back.
Calm. Now it says thoughts, right? Code.com, right? From Christopher Minster, right? From 1518 to 1521, the Spanish conquest, the Spanish conquistador Hernan Cortez and his army brought down the mighty Aztec Empire, right? To get a visual what that would look like, let's get a visual, right? Look just like this, right? It looked just like this, right? You had the damn conquistadors taking down our mighty brothers and sisters, man. All right, him and his damn devils taking down our brothers and sisters, right? Right, and it says the greatest the new world has ever seen. He did it through a combination of luck, courage, political savvy, and advanced tactics and weapons. Throwing smallpox blankets on a lot of people is not advanced tactics, right? It's because it's this biochemical warfare, right? It's folly tactics, I would say. All right, you didn't do it with the sword, man. Right, and it says by bringing the Aztec Empire under the rule of Spain, he set events in motion, which would result in a modern day nation of Mexico. Right.
Con. Right, you could send me that link. You could send that link to my phone, King.
Okay.
Right. So we going into the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs. Why? Because this fits Deuteronomy 28 and 49. You had a nation from far, right? And prior to the conquistadors coming over here, right, them so-called Aztecs, they had their own language, right? We might have to pull up the ancient Aztec language, but they didn't speak Spanish, right? Just like when the so-called white man came over here, we didn't speak English, right? When the so-called white man brought us over here from the west coast of Africa, we didn't speak English. That wasn't our language, right? But that was beat and forced into us. Just like the Haitians. Most of the Haitians, they speak French. It's not a coincidence that the French with Napoleon came over here and tried to conquer them, right? Now you got the Haitians speaking French. But you got a lot of simple men that just don't want to go into they just don't want to deal with the facts.
Right.
Right? They don't want to deal with the Bible evidence. They don't want to deal with the history. They just want to say, no, it's only the Negroes only. It's Negro only taking over. And you got Hispanic onlys now. Northern Kingdom onlys. Right, which is madness. But we can keep going on that, the article.
I just sent it.
God.
And it says the Aztec Empire in 1519. In 1519, when the Spanish first made official contact with the empire, the Aztecs ruled most of present day Mexico, either directly or indirectly. About 100 years before, Three powerful city-states in in central Mexico, Tenochtitlan, Tlacopan, and Tacuba, united to form the Triple Alliance, which soon rose to preeminence. All three cultures were located on the shores and islands of Lake Texcoco. Through alliances, wars, intimidation, and trade, the Axis came to dominate most of the other Mesoamerican city-states by 1519 and collected tribute from them. All right. And it says the preeminent partner in the Triple Alliance was the Mexican city of Tenochtitlan. The Mexico were led by Tzitlanania, a position roughly similar to Emperor. In 1519, the Tlatoani of the Mexico was Moctezuma Sococoyitzin, better known to history as Montezuma. Right? You had the rival of the devil. Right? Since 1482, when Christopher Columbus discovered the New World, the Spanish had fairly thoroughly explored the Caribbean by 1518. They became aware of the large landmass to the west, and some expeditions have visited the shores of the Gulf Coast, but no lasting settlement has been made. In 1518, Governor Diego Velázquez of Cuba sponsored an expedition of exploration and settlement and entrusted it to Hernan Cortez.
Right. So this literally going into how everything was set up through the spirit. Now, you can just have it pull up. I'm gonna read it. I got it pulled up on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
It says Cortez set sail with several ships, about 600 men, and after a visit to the Maya area of the southern Gulf Coast, it was here that he picked up his culture interpreter mistress Malinche, right? Malinche. So Cortez had to pick up an interpreter. That's not strange either, right? Like we learned into last time, Christopher Columbus had to use an interpreter when he came over here with the to the Taínos. It says Cortez reached the area of present-day Veracruz in early 1519. Right? Read on. It says Cortez landed, founded a small settlement, and made mostly peaceful contact with leaders of local communities. Right? And that's what the so-called white man would do. Right? As soon as he comes over here, he's not gonna come as a madman, just sparing none off bat. Now he is gonna do that soon, but chiefly when a so-called white man comes over here to take down things, he comes off sweetly, because he don't want to offend you. But our people so destroyed in the mind, just because somebody smiles in your face, they don't know deep down inside your enemy want to hurt you. Right? Let me get a precept in the book of Sirach. Right? This is Sirach chapter 19, and I want verse 26. Right? It's the book of Sirach chapter 19 and verse 26. There is a wicked man that hangeth down his head sadly, but inwardly he is full of deceit. Right? And Cortez, he probably came over here sadly. He made covenants. Oh, I'm just peaceful. I just want to learn you guys' culture. Right? I want to learn your spice. How do you do this with the spices? Right? The corn, the trades. Right? It says, but inwardly he is full of deceit. And it was really deceit the whole time in his mind. I think we brought this out last time. But when a so-called white man sees a civilization or a nice civilization with large amounts of land, his eyes go cha-ching. Right? His eyes go swords, guns, war. You said what?
No, I got a precept after you.
Right? And that's what he does. Right? Reading on, it says, casting down his countenance and making as if he heard not, whereas he not known, he will do the mischief before thou be aware. See that? I'm gonna read that again. It says, casting down his countenance, right, and making as if he heard not. What you say? Oh, nah, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear you, right? Or trying to be somebody he's not, putting on a front. It says, he will do thee a mischief before thou be aware. And that's what happened. That's what happened to the Taino Indians. That's what happened to the Mayans, the Native Americans, right when they least expected. And he did them much mischief, right? It says, verse 28, and then for want of power, he be hindered from sinning. Yet, when he findeth opportunity, he will do evil. Right? But you got it.
All right. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 27. Let's start at verse 6. All right. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Right? When your friend cuts you, right? Not physically, but spiritually, right? With the word, right? Kind of get on you, rebuke you for going off. Right. Hey, guess what? Those are wounds, but those are faithful wounds. Because guess what? It may hurt at the time, but he's trying to build you up. Right? He's keeping it real with you. Right? You may not like that, but he's keeping it real with you. But those are faithful wounds. But what does it say? But the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Right? Your enemy going, hey, what are the kisses of an enemy? Right? The things that you want to hear. May tell you look good. Right? May tell you, hey, brother, you're a smart, intelligent brother. Right? Let me show you something real quick. Right? And then you get destroyed because you thought to listen to that. Right? You don't want to have the kisses of the enemy, man, because they are deceitful, right? You would rather have the more faithful wounds of a friend. All right. So all you gotta watch your enemy, man. I'm gonna look at Sirach chapter 13. All right. You would rather have all right. That's Sirach chapter 13. All right. And it says, Sirach 13 and verse 8, beware that thou be not deceived and brought down in thy jollity. So when you happy, right, when everything's going good, hey, guess what? You'll be deceived at that moment in time and you'll be brought down, man. Now you're in the highest state, the jollitile state. Now you sad all of a sudden, man. Right? Imagine going from very happy, having a good day to a bad day because you ended up being deceived by your enemy. You got blindsided by the enemy. Right? You listen to those kisses, man. All right. And now you was brought down. All right.
Right, a precept. It's Sirach 12 and verse 16. It says, an enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips. Right? And that's what Esau would do, man. And not even just Esau, an enemy in general. He's going to speak sweetly with his lips. He's going to say things you want to hear. He's not going to tell you the truth. Right? And Paul said in Galatians 4 and 16, am I become your enemy now that I tell you the truth, paraphrasing it? Right? So a real friend, he going to tell you the truth. And y'all might become enemies. Right? But the enemy is going to lie to you. Right? And he's going to speak sweetly. That's why you have to know people you have to notice. You got to try the spirits, man. Because everybody with fringes on, hair wraps, and mitris, you got a lot of wicked men in Israel. That's just they spirit just unrighteous, right? Read on, it says, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood, right? And that's that picture the brother pulled up on his Spanish conquest of the Aztecs, right? He wouldn't be satisfied with blood. It's literally so much. Yeah, that's the picture. He wouldn't be satisfied with blood. You had the so-called Mexican lynchings when they was lynching those Mexicans, right? A lot of people think it was only Judah getting lynched. You could put that up, King, the Mexican lynchings. Because a lot of people think it was only Judah. right? You got Negro onlys. They say, nah, we the only people that get lynched, right? No, you had the so-called Mex. They was getting lynched. They was getting hung on trees. Right? It's the Mexican lynches. And that was kind of right after the Mexican Revolution. Right? The Mexican lynchings. See that? A lot of people think it was just Judah. Nah, Judah are the only one to get lynched. Right? We was the only one. No, brother. If you do your research and stop just listening to what everybody tell you and dive into it, you would know that the so-called Mexicans, they got lynched too. They probably still getting lynched to this day. Down near Mexico. You got a lot of people, they don't like these so-called Mexicans. They hate them. Right? Just like Judah might be getting lynched in the South somewhere or somewhere in the United States. And you got Issachar, they getting lynched as well. But brothers don't want to go into this though. They don't want to talk about this.
Right.
They just want to say one West doctrine. Right? But you gotta literally explain this. You had a point?
No, I'm just saying, yeah, brothers just be following and don't be studying for themselves. Let me go to the book of Acts. Right? They can learn from this right here. Right? It's Acts chapter 17. Right? This Acts 17, I start verse 7. When Joseph had received, and these all do contrary to the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, one Yahushua. And they troubled the people and the rulers of the city, and when they heard these things. Right? And it says, and when they had taken security of Jason and of the other, they let them go. And of the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas by night to Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews. Right? These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, and that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily, whether those things were so. So you got to be able to search the scriptures daily, search your history, your archaeology, whatever, to see whether those things are so. You just don't want to believe what another man tells you. If you just believe what another man tells you, you're a fool, man. Right? That man has power over you. Right? He's kind of believe it. Like, he don't give you no evidence. He say this is what that's what our people do now. We believe the so-called white man, everything he tells us. The government says this vaccine will help you. I mean, Slocky, the poison will help you. Right? You kind of take the poison. All right. They tell you to do this, you do that. Right? You just kind of go with the flow. You got to be able to search these things daily. All right. Let me see if I can get another precept. All right. You got to understand that, man. You can't be a fool out here. You got to know what's going on. All right. You have to know what's going on. All right. Let's see if I can get. Colin, this is Proverbs 14 and 15. The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. So if you're a very simple person, you're going to believe every word anybody tells you. Right? That's why you have a lot of brothers switching from doctrine to doctrine, because they believe every word. They don't really study for themselves. Right? They say, okay, well, this brother's mighty. He says that. Well, I'm going to take a little bit of that. But that brother also mighty. He says this. Well, that also got to be true. So let me mix it with this. Well, that brother over here says that too, but he been in the truth for 30 years. So I'm going to listen to what he's got to say too. Brother, just look for yourself, man. All right? And it says the prudent man looketh well to his going. If you're not looking well to your going, you're not prudent. But what's the opposite of prudent? You're going to be a foolish man. All right, what you got?
Right. So there you have it. You got Mexicans that is getting lynched. I want to see Chinese people getting lynched. Right. I want to see a mass Chinese people getting lynched. How we was getting lynched. Right. Or down Ethiopians. It's not happening to them, man. Right. What are so-called minorities of this society? You gotta accept it. You just gotta accept it. Right? But we could go back to the article. Right. So it says Cortez marches inland. Right. It says the first emissaries from the Aztecs arrived bearing gifts and seeking information about these interlopers. Right. The rich gifts meant to buy off the Spanish and make them go away. Right. So the Aztecs, they didn't really even want them there. They kind of, in a spirit, they kind of knew what was going on. It says, had the opposite effect. They wanted to see the riches of the Aztecs for themselves, right? Because the Aztecs, they had a very in order civilization. You could look at the pyramid, the so-called pyramids they built. They had a lot of fruits, crops, right? It's this book I got to order. I believe in there they were saying the so-called Mayans, they was doing like the first fruit sacrifices. Right? I gotta get that book. But it says they wanted to see the riches of the Aztecs for themselves. Right? You can pull up the Aztec civilization.
Aztec civilization.
Prime, Aztec civilization prime or something like that.
We'll do Aztec civilization. Let's see what happens.
Right, that's the Aztec civilization. Right, they had, they had a lot of land. Look at those. Look how big those pyramids is. Right, it's not a coincidence they got pyramids either. Right, the Mayans got pyramids, Aztecs, Incas, and there was pyramids in ancient Egypt. But some people might say we winging it though. But you see that empire though. So we can go back to the article. It says the Spanish made their way inland, ignoring pleas and threats for Montezuma to go away. So the Aztecs, Montezuma, he was an Aztec leader, right? I got a little bit of history on him. It says Montezuma II Oxozen was leader of the Mexican Aztec Empire in 1519 when Spanish conquistador Hernan Cortez showed up with a powerful army. Montezuma's indecision in the face of these unknown invaders certainly contributed to the fall of his empire and civilization. Right? So he was an Aztec leader. That's who he was. And he was threatening them to go away. Reading on, it says, when they reached the islands of the Tlaxcalans, it's lucky for the pronunciation, it says, in August of 1519, Cortez decided to make contact with them. The warlike Tlaxcalans had been enemies of the Aztecs for generations and had held out against their warlike neighbors. Right? So these was enemies with the Aztecs. Right? And you could go into that as well. It says, after 2 weeks of fighting, the Spanish gained the respect of the Tlaxcalans, and in September, they were invited to talk. Soon an alliance was forged between the Spanish and the Tlaxcalans. Time and again, The Tlaxcalans warriors and porters, which accompanied Cortez' expedition, would prove their value. See that? So the so-called white man, he teamed up. It says what? In October, Cortez and his men and allies passed through the city of Colulia, home of the cult of the god Quetzalcoatl. Colula was not exactly a vassal of the Aztecs, but the Triple Alliance had much influence there. After spending a couple of weeks there, Cortez learned of a plot to ambush the Spanish when they left the city. Cortez summoned the leaders of the city to one of the squares, and after berating them for a treason, he ordered a massacre. His men and Tlaxcalan allies fell on the unarmed nobles, slaughtering thousands. This is a powerful message to the rest of the Mesoica America not to trifle with the Spanish. See that? So it was literally thousands of slaughters, right? Now that chiefly go back to the curses. Right, let me get that in Deuteronomy 28. Right. So it wasn't just the Haitians that got slaughtered. Right? The so-called the Levites or Judah. No, you had the Aztecs, right, which is the tribe of Issachar. They were getting slaughtered as well. Right? This Deuteronomy chapter 28, and I want verse 25. It says, the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thy enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Right? And that 7 is not literal. That's a number of completion. So they will be smitten before their enemies. Right? So I actually want to go back to Deuteronomy 28 and 49. Right? It says, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far. And that nation we just established through the article is the conquistador Spaniards, or the Spanish conquistadors, right? Hernan Cortez, that's that nation from far. It says, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. Now, can you pull up a picture of the old Spanish flag? It said, as swift as the eagle flieth. It's not a coincidence, right, that this old Spanish flag has an eagle on it. Now, that is talking about how swiftly an eagle can fly and how the conquistadors swiftly came. But hey, it's not a coincidence that their flag is a black eagle. Right? So brothers that scoffing will literally have to explain this. Right? Because we didn't make this up. Right? I didn't say, you know what? I'm going to create the Spanish flag and I'm going to put a black eagle on it. Right? I'm going to write this in the Bible. I didn't do that. Right? I wasn't even born. I just was born in the 2000s. So that's literally impossible. Right? It says, Deuteronomy 28 and 49, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation's whose tongue thou shalt not understand. See that? And that's why it's not a coincidence that Cortez had to get an interpreter. We just read that in the article. He had to get a female interpreter. Why? Because he couldn't understand their language. And her name was Malenshi. Right? For brothers and sisters that want to look it up, until Hernan Cortez bringing an interpreter. This is her name. It says she was enslaved, right?
Come on.
So we could go back to it unless you had a precept.
No, okay, you got it.
I'm gonna actually read some on an article. It might be. Is there some green highlighted words on there?
Green highlighted words like the slaughtering thousands.
Yeah. You able to go up to the Malinche woman?
Where?
You probably gotta scroll up into. Let me see. It says the arrival of Cortez.
Oh yeah, right here. Mistress
Yeah.
Malinche. You click on it.
God. Right. It says a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. So these men had to bring interpreters over here because the Aztec, they spoke a different language. It says Malinche 1500 to 1550, also known as Malintizan, Donna Maria, and most commonly Malinche, was an indigenous Mexican woman who was given to the conquistador Hernan Cortez as an enslaved person in 1519. So she was enslaved. She couldn't do nothing about it. It says Malinche soon proved herself very useful to Cortez, as she was able to help him interpret Nahuatl, the language of the mighty Aztec Empire. Right? And he said, hey, I think she was a coon.
Yo.
He said,
Oh,
what?
I said, oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna read on down. It says Malinche was an invaluable asset for Cortez, as she not only translated but also helped him understand local cultures and politics. Many modern Mexicans. Now, why do we say Mexicans and we talking about the Aztecs? Right? It literally say Mexicans. It says many modern Mexicans see Malinche as a great trader who portrayed her native cultures to the bloodthirsty. They say they was bloodthirsty, right? I don't know if brothers remember, but you was in the world, you used to kind of play Call of Duty. You get a certain amount of
Oh.
kills, some will pop up, say bloodthirsty. They say they was bloodthirsty to the bloodthirsty Spanish invaders. Right, so she was a coon. Right, let me get a precept. Right, let me get the classic. Right, this first Maccabees, chapter 11, and verse 21. Right, it reads, then surly, ungodly persons who hated their own people went unto the king and told him that Jonathan besieged the tower. Right? So you got wicked men in Israel. And you had wicked men during the time of the Aztecs, right? Who hated their own people. And they cooned out. Right? You got a lot of coons, man. Then we have a coon in the other article when we was going into the so-called Puerto Ricans.
Right. Ephraim, yeah. You got a coon kind of right at the mouth, man.
Yep. You had a coon. You had a coon in what's that? The Black Panther Party. Right? You had a coon in there. You had a lot of coons, man. And we reading about, but she's a woman coon. So she kind of stick out a little bit. Nevertheless, she's still a coon. Right? You got a precept?
Come. It's the book of First Maccabees. It's First Maccabees 11 and 21. Then certain ungodly persons who hated their own people went unto the king and told him what Jonathan besieged the tower. So you have certain ungodly people that hate their own people, right? They literally hate their own people, man. Right. And just like in the days of old, they're gonna go to the king and they're gonna tell him what our people has a plan against the king, what our people are gonna do, how our people are gonna react and move, right, and fight against this system. All right, we can't have that happen. Let me go to First Maccabees chapter 1. Right, this First Maccabees 1:11. In those days went out Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen." And that's exactly what you see. She made a covenant with the heathen. Hey, guess what? Hey, them damn Aztecs, they made a covenant with the heathen too, with them Spaniards, man, and started persecuting their own people. Right? They already was, but then they had the so-called white man help them do it as well. All right, and it also says that round about us, for since we departed from them, we have much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people so forth herein that they went to after the king who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. I'm pretty sure she went after, Hernan Cortez or his leader to, kind of make herself useful so she can start doing their ways, doing their cultures, right? And it says, whereupon they built a place of exile, Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathens, right? Hey, guess what, man? She's doing it. She was into the customs of the heathen, right? And they said she forsook her native cultures and a bloodthirsty Spanish invaders, man. All right. You got it.
Come. A King Saul was a coon, man. Right? A lot of people don't really bring up what King Saul did. A King Saul, he was kind of a coon. Right? Let's go to the account in First Samuel. Right? It's the book of First Samuel, chapter 22 and verse number 33. It reads, it's like in First Samuel 22 and 13. It says, and Saul said unto him, why have ye conspired against me, thou and the son of Jesse, and that thou hast given him bread and a sword, and hast inquired of God for him, that he shall rise against me to lie in wait, as at this day. Right. So King Saul, he getting on Abimelech the priest. Right here you have it. This man is a priest of the Most High God, and King Saul, he getting on him. Right, because when you read the 21st chapter, he had let him eat some shoe bread. He let King David eat the shoe bread and get Goliath's sword because he was a hunger. King David didn't have anything to eat. Right, he was literally running from King Saul. So Abimelech the priest, he gave him the shoe bread. It says, verse 14, then Abimelech answered the king and said, and who is so faithful among all thy servants as David, which is the king's son-in-law, and goeth at thy bidding, and is honorable in thy house? Then I began to inquire of God for him. Be it far from me, let not the king impute anything unto his servant, nor to all the house of my father. For thy servant knew nothing of all of this, less or more. And the king said, thou shalt surely die, Abimelech, thou and all thy father's house. So King Saul, he kind of cursing the priest. He said, you're going to die. Verse 17, and the king said unto the footmen that stood about him, turn and slay the priests of the Lord, because their hand also is with David, and because they knew when he fled, and did not shew it to me, but the servants of the king would not put forth their hand to fall upon the priests of the Lord. So King Saul, he told his servants, hey, kill these priests, man. Right? We don't need them. Hey, kill this man. And his servants, they didn't want to do that. They said, nah, this is our own people. What do you mean? It says, verse 18. And the king said to Doeg, turn thou and fall upon the priest. And Doeg the Edomite turned, and he fell upon the priest and slew on that day 85 persons that did wear a linen ephod. See that? So Saul told Doeg the Edomite to go kill the priest. So Saul, he wasn't right in the head. Here you have he telling the Edomite go kill his own kindred, go kill his brethren, right? Go kill the Levites. That's madness,
And you
right?
know that Edomite was happy to do it too.
Said what?
You know that Edomite was happy to do it too. Probably calling up his cousins and his sisters in the damn land of Edom, telling him about the king told him to kill his own people. Right? Like do a celebration.
Yeah, he was. Doeg was kind of happy, right? He kind of start. You know how Jake started cheesing? He kind of doing this.
Right.
He kind of said he just told me to kill the priest. He getting excited.
Devil
You know,
horns.
these Edomites kind of weird. They get he turning red, right? So that's madness, man.
All right.
King Saul told Doeg the Edomite go kill this priest, and guess what? Doeg he kind of went to go do it, right? But we could go back to the article.
Smiling ear to ear like the damn clown from It, man.
Yeah.
Nasty smile. Come on.
Right, so she was a coon. Right, so going back to the we went to the massacre. The entry into Tenochtitlan and capture of the Manzamuza, Slovakia, Montezuma, right? And that was literally the final battle, right? If you could look up real fast, the battle of the Tenochtitlan, lucky for the pronunciation.
Chitalan.
You said what?
I said Tenochtitlan.
Tenochtitlan. Right?
Yeah, come.
Hey, this was literally the final battle because every war that you fight, you always have a decisive battle, right? Just like for example, when Babylon, when the Persian and Medes, they had the three ribs in their mouth, where you read about in Daniel, the 7th chapter. It was literally battles to take them down. You had the Battle of Opis, right? The Battle of Pelusium, Slovakia, and you had a Battle of Pelusium, I believe, right? When the Persian and Medes took down Babylon, Egypt, Slovakia. Let me actually get it, right? Right. So when the Persian and Medes had the three ribs in his mouth that you read about in Daniel the 7th chapter, that was literally Lydia in 545 BC, Babylon in 539 BC, and Egypt, right? And it all had a decisive battle that the Persian and Medes took them down. You had the Battle of Thymbra, you had the Battle of Opis, and you had the Battle of Pelusium, right? These are the battles. And it's gonna be a final battle when Yahweh shot when he reigns, right? When his kingdom gets translated, you literally gonna have a battle of Armageddon that you read about in Revelation 16 and 16. Then after that, you're gonna have a battle of Magog and Russia, like in Magog and Gog, right? Which is literally the Russians, right? So it's always a decisive battle, and so we can go back to it. It says,
You gonna go back to the first article?
God. right? Entry into the Tenochtitlan and capture of the Montezuma. It says, right, in November of 1519, the Spanish entered Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Mexica people and leader of the Aztec Triple Alliance. They were welcomed by Matamenza and put in a sumptuous palace. The deeply religious Montezuma had dithered and fretted about the arrival of these foreigners and did not oppose them. Within a couple of weeks, Montezuma had allowed himself to be taken hostage, a semi-willing guest of the intruders. The Spanish demanded all sorts of loot and food, while the Montezuma did nothing. The people and warriors of the city began to get restless. See that? So he kind of snatched them up, right? That would be your modern day getting snatched up and thrown into a minivan. And he kind of snatched dude up, and he like, where the loot at? Where the food at? Right?
God, I appreciate.
Uh,
And it's a classic. It's Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. This is a people robbed and spoiled. This don't if the how are they not Israelites? Right? They literally just got robbed of their flute and food while they did nothing. And they're being spoiled, right? Like bad food in the fridge. And it says, they are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey. These people are for a prey. They're getting preyed upon. Literally, man. You have these damn vultures, these damn eagles preying upon these people, these sheep, man. Right? For their damn resources, right? Looting for the food, drinks, or any gold, elements, all of those different things. And it says, and none deliberate for a spoil, none saith restore. And nobody said restore those things. Hey, guess what? Damn, Mexico's still missing some of their land to this very day. They didn't restore that land, right? If some said restore, then Mexico they'll have their land back. They'll have California, Vegas, Arizona, Texas, right? New Mexico, right? They'll have all of these different lands back, man. But none saith restore. All right, you got it.
all right. Con. And that go back to the curses. All right, it's Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 33. It says, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. See that? And the Aztecs, they didn't know the conquistador Spaniards. They didn't know who they were prior to their arrival. It says, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. Right? So they was demanding of the food, and they was demanding of the loot, man. And the fruit. The food, the fruit, and the loot. Alright. But we could go back to it if you ain't had none.
Kind of got him.
Okay. Right? So reading on, it says the night of sorrows. It says in May of 1520, Cortez was forced to take most of his men and return to the coast to face a new threat, a large Spanish force led by veteran conquistador Panfilio de Narvaez. Yeah. Right. That could be some history brothers go into. It says sent by Governor Velasquez to rein him in. Although Cortez defeated Narvaez and added most of his men to his own army, things got out of hand, and Tenochtitlan in his absence. On May 20, Pedro de Alvarado, who had been left in charge, ordered the massacre of unarmed nobles attending a religious fiesta festival. Salakia. See that? So you have to you can actually click on that too.
Which
Right?
one? The massacre?
Right. It says massacre at the festival of Tax Katol. And this man was a Spanish conquistador. And you got a lot of so-called Mexicans. Now, he was a so-called white man, Pedro. He was literally a Spanish conquistador. Now, I personally know a so-called Mexican. His name is Pedro.
I do too.
Right? His name is Pedro.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these so-called Mexicans, they got the last name Garcia, Alvarez, Vasquez.
Sanchez.
Yeah, Sanchez. Where is they getting these names from? Like brothers scoffing in the chat. Answer this question: where is these so-called Mexicans modern day getting these names from? Garcia, Diego, right?
Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus. What's another name?
Miguel.
Miguel. It started with the J silent.
Juan.
Yeah, Juan. Right? They getting these names for the Spanish conquistadors, man. Just like we got our so-called slave master's last name. My last name is Anderson. That don't come back to one of the 12. That don't come back to the Judites. Last time I checked, right? If I am from the tribe of Judah, that don't come back to Israel. These names, they're not our names, man. Anderson was the name of a so-called white man's plantation. Johnson, Williamson, right? So it's the same thing that's happening with the so-called Mexicans, right? Pedro, right? Rico, right? But we could read on, right? It says massacre at the festival of Tax Cattle. It says on May 20, 1520, Spanish conquistadors led by Pedro de Alvarado attacked unarmed Aztec nobles congregated at the festival of Tax Cattle, one of the most important festivals on a native religious calendar. And I wonder what that festival is, but it says Alvarado believed that he had evidence of an Aztec plot to attack and murder the Spanish, who had recently occupied the city and taken Emperor Montezuma captive. Thousands were slaughtered by the ruthless Spaniards, including much of the leadership of the Mexican city of Tenochtitlan. After the massacre, the city of Tenochtitlan rose up against the invaders, and on June 30, 1520, they would successfully, if temporarily, drive them out. So there you have it. You had another slaughter of the so-called Aztecs. Right. So we go back to if you had none.
No, we good.
Right. So reading on. It says on May 20, Pedro de Alvarado, who had been left in charge, ordered the massacre of unarmed nobles attending a religious festival. The enraged inhabitants of the city besieged the Spanish, and even Montezuma's intervention could not alleviate the tension. Cortez returned in late June and decided that the city should not be held. On the night of June 30, 30th, the Spanish tried to stealthily leave the city. It says leave the city, but they were discovered and attacked on what came to be known to the Spanish as the Night of Sorrows. Hundreds of Spanish were killed. Cortes and most of his important lieutenants survived. However, they made their way back to Tlaxcala and rest and regroup. Right, and that's what they get, man.
You on the second article?
God, what the first one?
First one.
Yeah, the Night of Sorrows. Right, and that's what they get.
Okay. Let me click on that or no?
We can go into it real fast. It says the Night of Sorrows. On the night of June 30th to July 1st, 1520, the Spanish conquistadors occupying Tenochtitlan decided to escape from the city. As they had been under heavy attack for several days, the Spanish tried to escape under cover of darkness, but they were spotted by locals who railed the Mexican warriors to attack. Although some of the Spaniards escaped, including expedition leader Hernan Cortes, many were slain by the angry natives, and many of the golden treasures of Montezuma were lost. The Spanish referred to the escape as La Noche Triste, or the Night of Sorrows. Right? And you can't forget, and you playing with those so-called Mexicans, right? Them Issacharites. Right? In the ancient world, they were men of might. Right, men of renown. You even see that now. They don't play the cartel down there. I seen some bad images. Somebody brains, a car shot up. Somebody brains on a street. And those so-called Mexicans, they don't play down there. They do not play. You see the brother shaking his head.
No, I'm like, oh, you'll go missing in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you'll go missing. Let me get this precept.
50 cents.
Right. This First Chronicles chapter 7, right in verse 5. It says, and their brethren among all the families of Issachar were valiant men of might. So those Issacharites in the ancient world, they was men of might. They wasn't your average dude you could push around. No, they were warlike. It says, were valiant men of might, reckoned and all by their genealogies, 7,000. So you have 7,000 men of valiant might, men fit for the battle. Right? You had a precept.
This is First Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 32. All right, and it says, and of the children of Issachar were men that had understanding of the times to know what Israel ought to do. The heads of them were 200, and all their brethren had their commandments. So they were in war. They were experts in war. They kept ranked, right? All their brethren without their commandment. I mean, they understood and knew how to take rank in council. Like the brother said, when you look at these Mexican gangs, man, you have different rankings. No brother's trying to usurp authority over the other brother, right? It's perfect. Hey, like I said, Northern Kingdom, they just in order. Look at them. You ever seen the damn Narcos on Netflix?
I heard of it. I ain't watched it.
You got these damn cartels. These cartels, they took it to another level. They're not street beefing no more, man. They dealing with the American government. They're dealing with federal government, taking over damn governments, man. Cartel damn near took over the Mexican government. The damn GD's not taking over the damn Illinois U.S. government. All right. They too busy trying to usurp authority over each other. They don't know how to take rank, man. Right? Damn BDs and Bloods and Crips, they can't even take over their local damn state, let alone the government, and then deal with another government on top of that. Right? So these Mexicans, they mighty people, man. All right.
Yeah, Jake always. When I mean Jake, really Jake is short for Jacob, but I'm really talking about Judah,
Right.
Benjamin and Levi. You know, we not in order, right? That's one thing I would say. Northern Kingdom, for the most part, they somewhat stick together. I work with so-called Mexicans at my job. If you don't know something, they will literally stand there and teach you it so you can know it. They will literally teach another so-called Mexican whatever the job is, so they could be able to know, and they will work together with them. Jake don't want to train another Jake at the job. He said, just do it, bro. It's not hard, bro. Brother will tell me what to do. Right? So they in the Northern Kingdom, they somewhat do stick together. I would say that. All right. But we can go back to the article. All right. First article, it says the siege of Tenochtitlan. Right. It says while in Tlaxcala, the Spanish received reinforcements and supplies, rested and prepared to take the city of Tenochtitlan. Cortez ordered the construction of 13 brigantines, large boats which could sail or to be renewed, and which would tip the balance while assaulting the island. Right, so they literally coming in to seize this place, man, this city. It says most importantly for the Spanish, an epidemic of smallpox broke out in Mesoamerica, slaying millions, including countless warriors and leaders of the Tenochtitlan. Right? See that? So it said, hey, it slew millions, man. Right? I got a precept. That sounds familiar. Right? It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28.
You still in that second article or the first one?
I was on the first one.
Okay, let me go back.
The siege.
Yeah, here we go.
Right. It says an epidemic of smallpox broke out in Mesoamerica, slaying millions, including countless warriors and leaders of the Tenochtitlan. Right. The unspeakable tragedy was a great lucky break for Cortez, as for his European soldiers were largely unaffected by this disease. The disease even struck down Chihuahua, the warlike new leader of the Mexica. Right? You had, like I said, you had different battles. Right? I want to get this precept during Deuteronomy 28 and verse verse 21. It says, the Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. See that? So the pestilence, the smallpox, it clave unto them. Right? The people of the city, those Aztecs, until they was driven away from the land that they possessed. Right? You had a precept? Come. You go back to it. Right? It says in early 1521, everything was ready. The brigantines were launched, and Cortez and his men marched on Tenochtitlan Every day, Cortez top lieutenants Gonzalo de Sandoval, Pedro de Alvarado, and Cristobal de Olid. And I believe Christopher Columbus, his real name was Cristobal Colon or Cristo Colon or something like that. That was his Spanish name. Right? So you had Cristobal de Olid and their men assaulted the causeways leading into the city, while Cortez, leading a small navy of Brenaginians, Slovakia, brigantines, and boarded the city, furred men, supplies, and information around the lake, and scattered groups of Aztec war canoes. It says the relentless pressure proved effective, and the city was slowly worn down. Cortez,
I appreciate too.
kind you got it.
It sounds like something that happened before, right? Where the heathen they will surround your city and they'll cut off your supply, right? They'll cut off your supply, they'll cut off your food, and then that city will slowly wear down, right? It's patience, right? And that's what they did with our people in Jerusalem. All right, let me get this precept real quick. And Luke. It's Luke chapter 21. All right, so Yahushua said this. That was going to happen to, of course, that happened to Judah, right? But this also happened to them as well. It's Luke chapter 21 and verse 20. When you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then you know that the desolation there was nigh. Right now we see in this, what city was this? Right, the men marching to Chichilion, right? They compassed this city with armies, right? Hey, what they actually had compassed with Aztec war canoes, right? They bombarded the city with small navy of brigantines, all right? And it says, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not that one country enter thereunto. For the days of vengeance and the things which are written to be fulfilled, right? But woe unto them that are with child. So woe unto them that are with child in this time as well, right? Why? And it says, woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land and wrath upon his people. And we see that with this. There was wrath upon the people. There was great distress in the land. Right? When you taking away the food, when you taking away the supply, right? All those different things, the city's going to be worn down. Right? And it says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive to all nations. And once the city's worn down enough, right, through famine and different pestilence and different wars, guess what? Those people are going to be taken into captivity, right? And it says, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of Gentiles be fulfilled. And we see that right here happening with Northern Kingdom.
And a real fast point, that's what the like you said, what the Romans, that was their tactic as well. When you go into the Romans, when you go into the history of their battle strategies, they will literally surround you so that eventually whatever food in your house is going to run out. So you don't have no way but to come out. You'll either starve to death inside your house or you're going to come out and get busted. Right? So they will literally swarm the whole house around. And that's what Esau do now. Right? Let's say somebody's on a bank robbery. Esau is going to say roadblock on so-and-so.
Right.
That's, the whole, they going to surround you. So you don't have nowhere to go. Right? And that's kind of a smart tactic though. Right? But we go back to it. Right. It says, believe we're gonna finish this. So it says the relentless pressure proved effective, and the city was slowly worn down. Cortez sent enough of his men on raiding parties around the city to keep other city-states from coming to the relief of the Aztecs. And on August 13, 1521, when Emperor Cuauhtemoc was captured, resistance ended, and the Spanish were able to take the smoldering city. See that?
Huh.
Read on. The aftermath of the conquest of the Aztec Empire. Within 2 years, the Spanish invaders had taken down the most powerful city-state in Mesoamerica, and the implications were not lost on the remaining city-states in the region. There were sporadic fighting for decades to come, but in effect, the conquest was a done deal. Cortez earned a title and vast lands and stole most of the riches from his men by sword changing them when payments were made. Most of the conquistadors did receive large tracts of land. However, these were called encomiendas.
Comiendas.
Encomiendas. Water.
Huh.
It says, in theory, the owner of an encomienda protected and educated the natives living there, but in reality, it was a thin-veiled form of enslavement.
Read that last part again.
It says it was a thinly veiled form of enslavement.
I thought they ain't going to slavery, y'all. No, they ain't going to slavery. That's mad.
Yeah.
That's madness. They couldn't have gone into slavery. Northern Kingdom? What? No, they ain't going to slavery. See that? They
You
was
can
just
actually click on that word encomendia.
okay. Yeah, let's get into it. You got a lot of people leaving the live stream now. All right.
Yeah.
It's kind of getting hot. See that? Looks
Yeah.
like slavery to me.
You said what?
I said, looks like slavery. Hey, wasn't Jake getting getting tortured and getting split open with horses, getting buck raped? Hey, I see the same thing happening right here.
Yeah, men getting a foot cut off.
Right.
Oh yeah, they just cut his hand off if you zoom in on the picture.
Oh yeah, I see that. Right here. See, damn. See that?
Somebody over there getting tortured over there.
All right, and that's in the movie Roots. Didn't they cut them? They try to cut the man foot off.
Yeah.
See that? Yeah. See, let's get into it right here. This showing there was slavery, man.
So it says the Encomeda system. I'm gonna start at the top. It says in the
All right.
1500s, Spain systematically conquered parts of North, Central, and South America, as well as the Caribbean, with indigenous governments such as the effect Inca Empire in ruins. The Spanish conquistadors needed to find a way to rule their new subjects. The encomienda system was put in place in several areas, mostly importantly in Peru. Under the encomienda system, prominent Spaniards was entrusted with native Peruvian communities. In exchange for the stolen labor of indigenous people and tribute, the Spanish lord will provide protection and education. Right, so it basically would be a so-called community where they would, kind of how school is. Right, they say school is educational, is beneficial, you could learn, but the classroom is the modern day, it's the old time slavery where you get indoctrinated. Read on. It says, in reality, however, the encomienda system was then mass enslavement and led to some of the worst horrors of the colonial era. Dang.
Mm.
It says the encomienda system. The word encomienda comes from the Spanish word encomendar, meaning to entrust. The encomienda system had been used in feudal Spain during Reconquest and had arrived in some form ever since. In the Americas, the first encomiendas were handed out by guess who? Christopher Columbus in the
Dun, dun,
Caribbean.
dun.
Yeah. Spanish conquistadors, settlers, priests, or colonial officials were given a repartimento or grant of land. These lands were often quite vast. The land included any indigenous cities, towns, communities, or families that lived there. The indigenous people were supposed to provide tribute in the form of gold or silver, crops, foodstuffs, animals such as pigs or llamas, or anything else the land produced. The indigenous people could also be made to work for a certain amount of time, say on a sugarcane plantation or in a mine. In return, the encomendero was responsible for well-being of the enslavement people and was to see it that they were converted and educated about Christianity, right? And the brother, he know a little bit more about uh Jesus Christos, right? And how the so-called Mexicans is with the Christianity and the Roman Catholicism a little bit more than me.
Yeah, con, it's bad, man. Like they got that spirit on them heavy down there, man. You know how Northern Kingdom get when they cleave to them idols, man. Now it's in their car, right? Now the damn idols around their neck. They praying to the Mary. They got the shrine set up all in the damn house, right? These damn Mexican gangsters, hey, they pray. They'll pray before they kill you, man,
Yeah.
and then pray afterwards, and then go to your funeral and cry about it, right?
Yeah, this so-called Mexican, he worked and he got a damn cross on the back of his it's hanging back. He don't even got it on forwards. It's hanging backwards. And I seen this dude named Jesus that worked with me. He kind of came in. He seen such rape Brazil. He said that's what he did, right? He said, brother,
Yeah, that's idolatry
hey,
right there.
yeah. And if you tell them to stop, their Northern Kingdom will get on you. They don't play about white Jesus. They'll get on you, right? But I had a precept.
Hey, hold on, my damn train. I'm training an Ephraimite, man, like an older Ephraimite, right? And we about to and we knock on the damn right because that's my job. We gonna knock on the damn door. This man, he look at me, go, and then knock on the damn door. I'm looking at you. I'm sorry if that offends you, but I got to do that. And then he praying over his food to him. I'm looking at him like, brother, we just working right now. What we got going on, right? But that's how they get out. Got the damn rosary on. Talk about I did a lot of things in my past life. And he keep doing it. I said, brother, stop doing that. You letting demons in. Stop doing that, brother. I'm sorry. Yeah, we working right now.
He said he did a lot of things in his past life.
Yeah, talk about I did a lot of things in my past life I'm not proud of. And then he did it again. I said, all right, brother, we just working.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the article, man.
Or I had a precept because it said the indigenous people could ask to be made to work for a certain amount of time, say on a sugarcane plantation or in a mine. Right? It's Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 16. Because you had them so-called them Incas, those so-called Mexicans, they was in a sugarcane field. Jake, just stop thinking that Judah was the only one in a sugarcane field. Right? No. You had the so-called Mexicans in there. It says, "Cursed shall I be in the city," and we could go into that too, right? The poverty rate in the so-called among the so-called Mexicans. We already know they cursed in the city. Look how they living down there. They got a damn wall separating them. It says, and cursed shall I be in the field. Right? This
It's
just not
true.
talking about Judah. It literally says, say on a sugarcane plantation or in a mine. Right? You could go back to that, King.
Where? Right here? The article?
Okay. You could zoom in on that sugarcane plantation.
Where you see that at? Oh, come. Come. That's a personal testimony. Hey, my rib said her grandfather picked cotton, man, on a plantation. And she's Issachar, if you didn't know.
There you have it. Picking cotton. So you Negro onlys, right? Or saying a 12 tribe chart fake. Can you please explain this right now? Right? Explain why the so-called Mexicans is on a sugarcane field and we reading it. Now you got two options. You could say Dark Co. That's a false website. Take it down. Or you could just acknowledge it.
They
Right?
said they said Benjamin, right? So-called Jamaica was also in the sugarcane fields. Hold on. So if Benjamin was doing the same thing as Issachar, but Issachar not Israel, but Benjamin is.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll get on those Mexicans. They'll say they're not one of us. Look at their hair. It's straight. Brother, what is that supposed to mean? Right? I literally know his name is Dave. I remember him. He was in, I was kind of in 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade. His name was Davion. When I tell you his hair was straight and I'm looking at him, I know he from the hood, the so-called hood. His name was Davion. When I tell you his hair was straight, you would think he had the hair of a Caucasian. And he was a Negro. Right?
Huh.
What you got?
It says, and here go the same man that was oppressing Issachar. Christopher Columbus has first explored Jamaica in 1494 when it was inhabited by the Arawak Indians and named it St. Lago, sugar and slaves, right? Spanish settlers arrived in 1510 raising cattle and pigs and introducing two things that will profoundly shape the island's future: sugar and slaves. Wait, hold on. That happened to Benjamin, but wait a golly darn second here. This happened to Issachar too, right? And it says Christopher Columbus and the Caribbeans, right? We just read him in the Caribbeans in damn Jamaica, so called, right? But now it says the encomiendas, right? Now it's saying, guess what? Also, Issachar was on them sugarcane fields as well. Who are we reading about? Right, the Aztecs, right? Reading about the Aztecs, right? So, hey, so this is overwhelming proof that Issachar, hey, guess what? Is Israel.
Con. Right. So that's kind of it. That's it on that article, man. Right. So we go to You said what?
You trying to hop into a different article? You trying to go back to the first one because we even finished that first one.
We go back to the first one.
Remember? All right, the siege. We was at the last part too with the siege. We damn it done.
All right. So it says these were called encomendas. All right, we just went into that. It says in theory, the owner of an encomenda protected and educated the natives living there, but in reality, it was a thinly veiled form of enslavement. The cultures and people meshed, sometimes violently, sometimes peacefully. And by 1810, Mexico was enough of its own nation and culture that it broke with Spain and became independent. Right? Hey man,
Con,
it's a mighty history on this website.
Dark code.
Yeah, I might have to mess with dot code. But that's it on the article.
Con,
Right? So we could go to I want to get this in Genesis 49 real fast. Right? I want to get this in Genesis the 49th chapter. Right? Genesis 49 and verse 14. It reads Genesis 49 and 14. Issachar is a strong ass, right? Crouching down between two burdens. I'm gonna read it again. It says Issachar is a strong ass, right? And what does that mean? Issachar is a strong ass. An ass is another word for a donkey, right? In the ancient world, it's not talking about your behind, right? It's a donkey, and it's not a actually, it's not a coincidence that their symbol. You have a so-called Mexican donkey, right? You could look that up, King. The Mexican donkey,
con,
and a donkey is a very hard-working animal. It's strong. It could carry loads of things. That's what the Lord compared Issachar to. You can go to the there's some info on there on the Mexican donkey. I just looked it up. When they say all,
where? Oh, under all.
yeah. You just type in Mexican donkey, it might pop up. They say there are currently 12.8 million working donkeys, horses, and mules in Mexico. It's crazy, right? But this is what I want to pull out. It says Mexican donkey. I don't know if brothers can see that.
Mm,
It says donkeys are long associated with Mexico, but they are not native to the country. They were actually brought here by Spanish colonists. Yanez donkeys are still an important symbol of Mexico's agricultural past, representing strength, hard
Slack.
work.
What what article you reading?
I just typed in Mexican donkey and it popped up in a search
Oh,
bar.
okay. Oh, the first one. All right, that's the first one.
I don't know if it was the first one. You type in Mexican donkey. That's all you gotta do. Just type in Mexican donkey, it'll pop up.
No, I did. Yeah, it what you were reading from, but then it popped up
Oh,
the
it's the
website that you're
Mexico
reading
Daily
from.
News.
It's a blog.
Oh, it's the
Yeah.
Mexican.
These always want you to subscribe to something. All right,
Yeah, you
come.
gotta scroll down some. Yeah, that picture right there. It's like you
Right
go
here.
back up. Yeah, right there. It's right underneath it. It
Right here.
says, yeah, you might have to zoom in, son. It says, donkeys are still an important symbol of Mexico's agriculture past, representing strength, hard work, and yes, a lack of intelligence. That's crazy. Poor students are classically called burros. The truth is, the donkey is intelligent. The stupid reputation comes from being disobedient, which happens when the donkey is mistreated. According to the Royal Flores at a Borrellandia donkey sanctuary in Atumba, Mexico, right? But it's straight up, it said donkeys represent strength, hard work, and a lack of intelligence. That's why in Isaiah 1 and 3, the Lord said, the ass knoweth his master's crib, but Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider, right? So donkeys, they represent hard work. And I know because I work with them. The Mexicans in there, them so-called Mexicans, they be sweating, man. Don't even get any lunch breaks like that. They lunch break is literally the sweat off their face, right? Instead of them getting Gatorade, they just kind of and keep working, right? They some hard workers, man. Everybody know that. That's something you just can't. If somebody call a so-called Mexican a lazy worker, he's lying. 9 times out of 10, he's lying, right? So these are very hard-working people. The Lord compared them to that to a donkey, right? You had some kind of right. Genesis 49 and 14 again, right? Issachar is a strong ass, crouching down between two burdens, right? And those two burdens represent the North America, and then you will literally have South America. A Mexico is right into it, is right literally, in between. And on another level, those burdens represents the hard work that they carry. Because donkeys, they carry that burden. That's how Issachar is, man. I believe I might have to look it up on YouTube. It was this Issacharite. He was moving a refrigerator off the top of his house. Slovakia. So let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, this Issachar right here. Now, this might be Issachar. I'm trying to see if this Esau or not. I believe it's Issachar, right? But let's see this. On a bike. So check out this guy. He comes out of what looks like to be an I believe this is Issachar when I first saw the video. So you might ask, where is he taking this fridge? Obviously, he's going to go put in his car, right? Why didn't the store help him bring it out to his car? Because he's getting on his bike. That's right. This guy's putting a fridge on his back and riding his bike. Doubt that's Esau. This is absolutely incredible. Yeah. I can't believe the wheels aren't popping with the weight of a fridge on this guy's back. You gotta wonder how much.
Probably got a fridge with one hand and rolled off.
I'd love to see drivers' reactions who encounter this guy on the road. Have you guys seen this video? Hey, I believe that's Issachar, man.
Gotta be. Brother lifted up the fridge on his back.
Yeah.
Mighty.
Right.
That's mighty.
So I'm going to read on verse 15. It says, and he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to the bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Right? We just read that in the article, man. That encomienda that they had was for tribute. They would literally have to bring back gold. And if they wasn't bringing back gold enough or fast enough, as you could see, they was getting their foot chopped off. The hands was getting chopped off. Right? All hell was breaking loose. Right? So I want to get this in First Chronicles 12 and 32. We got a lot of articles, don't we?
Yeah.
All right. This First Chronicles 12 and 32. It says, and the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times. Right, so the children of Issachar, they had understanding of the times, meaning they had understanding of astrology and astronomy, right? And in the ancient world, they could be able to look at the skies and get certain revelations from the Most High. It's going to tell you that. It says to know what Israel ought to do. The heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment. Right now, we got some pulled up, so called the so-called the Aztec calendar. Right, we talk about the Mayan calendar as well. Zebulon was skillful in that too, but really, chiefly Issachar had understanding of the times. And you had in the Aztec calendar, they say you had certain, future prophecies that the Aztecs, they said they prophesied about nuclear war. Right. So you might have to share your screen.
Does it share it or no?
Nah. Hey, you can't make that up. It say the Aztecs foresaw the end of the world. And you living in the end of the world. Right? This is the end, man. Right? We have never been living in the time of these prophecies like ever before. You living in the end. But chiefly it said the Aztecs foresaw the end of the world. When they go into their calendar, they use that calendar based off the so-called solar system, but it was the stars for the most part, right? Astronomy and astrology, right? So yeah, brothers could look into that. We're not gonna go into the whole thing because I kind of skimmed through that. It's a lot in there, but you could go to the Ten Commandments stone, unless you wanted to read a little bit of that. That's a long article.
No, it's straight. Like I said, brothers can look at that on their own time, just going into right the end of the world, how it, Issachar, was mighty in those prophets, right? Seeing that, right? And this is going to go into more in depth of what it is, right? And then going into even to a little, right, of the scriptures as well, right? So brothers can look at that in their own time, right? It's called the outline.com, right? How the Aztecs predicted the epic apocalypse, right? And then you have the Ten Commandments in the New Mexico desert.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull this up. I believe that's with the ancient Paleo Hebrew.
Yep. Yep. Deep, it says deep in the desert of New Mexico. This wasn't just on the outskirts, it was deep in there, man. Near the town of Los Lunas, right? I don't sound like Jake didn't name this.
Right.
Right? Jake didn't name this. Esau didn't name this. So whatever they found in the Paleo Hebrew writing, right? It was in the town, damn near the town Los Lunas, meaning the sons. All right.
God, I got the article pulled up on my phone. It says about 35 miles south of Al-Bakr is a strange carved stone that some people claim is evidence that the lost tribe of Israel somehow made their way to the New World and journeyed into the America Southwest. As improbable as this sounds, the tangible proof is there for all to see, carved into a large border that has come to be known as the Lost Lunas, the Kellogg stone. Is this stone genuine proof of a Jewish presence in pre-Columbian America? Question mark. Or as critics claim, a modern day hoax. Let's look at both sides of the story. See that? So we gotta dive into this. Right? It says the stone's discovery, oral stories claim that the people knew about the Lost Lunas, Degalog stone, as far back as the 1850s. But at least one person, Franz Hooney, claimed in 1871 that the local Native Americans informed him that the stone was already there when their ancestors arrived in the region. And that's literally prior to the 1500s. It says informed that the stone was already there when their ancestors arrived in the region. Official credit to discovering the stone goes to Frank Hibben, a professor at the University of New Mexico. Hibben was shown the rock by a local resident of the area who says he had learned about the carved stone when he was a child back in the 1800s. Hibben claims that when he found the rock, it was covered in lichen and near indisguisable from other rocks in the area. The stone carvings, right? The 80-ton Los Lunas Decalogue stone is carved on one flat side with a passage from the Exodus and the Hebrew Old Testament listing 10 Commandments and Paleo-Hebrew writing, right? Hibben and others dated the stone carvings to be more than 1,500 years before Columbus visited the New World and offered it as proof that Jewish travelers, possibly the lost tribe of Israel, made it to America Southwest. A mineralogist named George Morehouse examined the carvings on a stone in 1985 and concluded that the engravings were between 500 and 2,000 years old based on weathering patterns. And it's not that deep. I'm talking about weathering patterns. You don't need weathering patterns to see how old something is. But Esau will use that.
And they use words like possibly.
Yeah.
No, it is what it is. It's the lost tribes of Israel talking about possibly, could be, determined, right? Foreshadowing. No, man. None of these folly terms that Esau likes to put in there. Just kind of slips it in there. Possibly the lost tribes of Israel. To keep, oh, they always want to keep Jake wondering.
Yeah.
Right? Jake always, well, it does say possibly, so maybe they're not the lost tribes. Jake, wake up, man. It's the lost tribes of Israel. This the type of damn witchcraft Esau be doing. Possibly. All right. No, it is the lost tribe of Israel. All right, come bring it up.
Like the brother said, it's a possibly the lost tribe of Israel made it to the American Southwest. No, it's not a possibly they did, right? It tell you in 2nd Esdras 13 and 40 that they did, right? And I'm going to read it. This 2nd Esdras chapter 13 and verse 40. It says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanaser the king of Syria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. Right, you can read about that in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, right? About the king of Assyria taking Samaria and carrying away northern kingdom to Assyria, right? It says, verse 41, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. And that place where never mankind dwelt is in a well, for the Issacharites, to the Central Americans and the Middle Americans, Middle America, Salakia, right? It says that they may keep their statutes, which which they never kept in their own land. And they enter into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High shewed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And that same region is called Ashereth, right? So it's telling you that in-depthly in 2nd Esdras 13 and 40 on down, how them so-called Native Americans was already over. Because a lot of people say, well, the Native Americans, they was already over here. Yeah, brother, they was, but how did they get over here? It's telling you in 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter, right? The Central Americans, the Taínos, right? It says it was of a year and a half. It took them a year and a half to get all the way over there from Israel and Assyria to come over here to America's a year and a half. It says the same region is called Ashereth. When you go into that word Ashereth, it's literally going into America, right? It says, then they dwelt there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come, right? So it said they will dwell there until the latter time, and you living in the latter time, right? So you had anything?
It's Jeremiah. Look at Jeremiah. and 33. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. All that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Hey, and there's not been another time where Israel and Judah were oppressed together other than the first slavery under Egypt. Right now, in the last slavery, you have the children of Israel and the children of Judah being oppressed together. If this is not the children of Israel and Judah being oppressed together in America, then the brothers, they're gonna have to come up with another place where the children of Israel and Judah are all in one land, serving as slavery in their captivity right now. Where is it at? It says it's a future prophecy. It says that they were oppressed together, and all of them took them captive. Go, hey, where is this at? But they gotta explain that, man. Right? This is that place right now, man. Right? We're oppressed together with Northern Kingdom. Right? And how do you know this is a future prophecy? Hey, because when you read down, it says the Redeemer is strong, the Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause. Whose cause is he pleading? All right, the children of Israel and the children of Judah's cause, and that he may give them rest and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. We know who Babylon is, right? This has to be Babylon. We know this is Babylon, right? Kind of can't really dispute that. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith the Lord, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon the mighty men, they shall be dismayed. Right? So, hey, brothers, they'll have to come up with another place where Judah and Israel was oppressed together. And we know that this is the place America. Right?
Right. And the brother, right. So brothers will literally have to explain it. This is Jeremiah 3 and 18. In those days shall the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given for an inheritance unto your fathers. Right, so the children of Israel and Judah, they will come out of the land of the north together. Right, so brothers would literally have to explain that instead of just scoffing. Right. So yeah, man. With that, that's the tribe of Issachar breakdown. Right, Lord willing, this video was edifying. Right, we had a lot of articles pulled up. Right, but for the sake of time, we can't dive into all of them through the spirit. So, Lord willing, this was edifying. Giving all honor and glory to the Most High. Hawa, Ba'ashema Mashiach, Muhammad Shah, Shalom. Right? And
Shalom,
next,
Israel.
real fast, next, we're going to do the tribe of Gad. Right? Lord willing, to be continued. Right? Tribe
Khan,
of Gad.
Abaratazah. Tribe of Gad
Lord
coming
willing.
next, man. Tribe of Gad on deck. Lord willing.
All right?
Shalom, Israel.
That Shalom.